Welcome to Political Head Trauma as we get set up for our live everywhere.
Okay. I gotta put in a thing.
We'd like to let you know that tonight in our segment at 6:30, we're welcoming Sheriff Paul Wimmer to the show, and we're going to talk about what's going on in the county, things that we've done over the last 4 years since he was last elected, and what he's looking to do in the next 4 years if elected again. Yeah. So he is the other Republican candidate he's the incumbent candidate under the Republican banner for Tooele County Sheriff. And he's a good friend of the show. He's been on quite a bit.
Yeah, Sheriff Wimmer's a good dude. Okay, all right. Everything's up and running. Humming, and should we kick off the intro tunage? What are you pointing at?
The name on the screen needs to change.
Oh, always. Every time. We shared this with other people. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am Holly, and this is Jared, and we are Political Head Trauma, and we're grateful to KMMU. So as we kick this off, join us on Facebook or YouTube or Rumble and share with your friends.
Live from Utah's Wasatch Front, the pulse of the Mountain West, where the issues that shape your life meet the truth that sets you free. Across Utah, across the Republic, and around the world, welcome. This is KMMU.
All right. Thank you, KMMU, and all the people there. Humna. I'll tell you what. This Chelada Clamato Budweiser Picante. I know it sounds gross.
Is it making your mouth water really bad?
It always hits.
The first sip?
No, it's just got a hint of spice. I really enjoy it. I don't drink it a lot. It's kind of really acidic. And I don't drink a lot anyway, but tonight it sounded like a good idea. I was on call the last couple of weeks, so I could partake tonight. But anyway, so we're at war. Gas costs everything.
I don't understand. I don't think in my lifetime I've seen it this high.
It's been this high before. I mean, it was this high for a minute under Biden. It was this high for a minute under Obama. Right at the end of I think it was right after Obama first got in, it climbed up super high. But no, the Straits of Hormuz, I know everyone's like, oh, it's only 5% of the oil that passes through the earth. Just like when they say, well, little increments have big effects. And this proves it. Yes, only 5% of the oil and natural gas pass through the Straits of Hormuz. But that little bit, just a little shift in the equation of supply and demand has huge effects. Just like crushing a handful of older cars has huge demands. Try buying a car nowadays. It's all these things have long-lasting effects. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on in Iran. I don't know what's going on with it. I don't know what the plan is. My gut feeling is that I don't know if there was a chance where they had the protests a couple months back. I have a bad feeling that was thrown away by this action. Just because I don't imagine. I just put myself in shoes, and let's say Kamala Harris was president, but if my country was bombed, and Kamala Harris was taken out, I wouldn't cheer and say, hey, good job, success. No, I'd be pissed. I'd lean into siding with our government. So I maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just thinking that's how I would feel about it. So I don't know. I don't know if there's a reason. And I'm not in those, I don't have the intelligence. I mean, one, I are a moron, and two, but all I can do is look at it from here and then put $100 of gas in my truck. That's all I can do. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, in the past, they've always said you can't, when it's other presidents, they always say you can't blame a president for gas prices. And again, we are dealing with something that is so big. The price of gas controls the economy in such an enormous way because, yeah, you and I have trucks that $100 to fill it is pretty average for us. In fact, when gas prices were lower, I remember looking at the pump thinking, oh, something's wrong, because it only cost me like $75 or $70 to fill it. And I was like, oh, well, this is weird. And yet, when you don't look at just the common person going to work every day, 2 vehicles, usually if you're a double income family, you look at the truck drivers who are moving your food, moving your items. These companies will get their prices. And that's what I see is you're going to have inflation again, even worse, because they can't afford to drive the heartbeat of this country as truck drivers.
It almost feels like we're heading headlong into a recession. It feels like it. I mean, I don't know.
Tonight, Donald Trump's going to address the nation regarding Iran. I believe that starts at 9 p.m. Eastern. That would be 7 p.m. Mountain. Yeah,
probably.
I'm curious, and I'm wondering what you guys think, because is he going to say, hey, we've accomplished what we want to accomplish? We want to put boots on the ground, or you know what, this is what's going on. Here's who has he been negotiating with? These questions are all out there, and I'd like to know the answers. I know that when you are in a situation like the United States is regarding war, you don't share too much. But I think the last boat that is getting oil and gas to China and other countries is out now. So the effects, and we aren't necessarily fueled by Iran. This is another question that I have.
No, but that's a global thing.
It is. They do fund
oil is universal. Oil goes everywhere. So 5% of the global supply gets hit and demand spikes. Look what it's done to cars. Before Clash for Clunkers, a brand new F-350 was what, $45,000, $50,000? And we thought that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
What is it now? $90,000, $100,000?
Oh yeah, it's almost.
And that is just from them crushing old cars that may not have ran.
I don't think you'll ever get over Clash for Clunkers.
No, I won't, because I'm a car guy.
Yeah. Well, and this is the thing, like, I don't know.
I don't want to lay the blame on Trump, because there may be a plan and it may be outstanding and maybe everything's going according to plan. This is, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to be one of those that just
I don't either.
Shoots from the hip. But from the average moron standing on the ground, we're like, what is going on?
Yes.
And then there's all sorts of No Kings protests, which is just...
There's irony there.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally couldn't have a protest if we had a king.
Well, it's not just that. Maybe you could, maybe you couldn't. I don't know. But what it reminds me is the Democrats, every time a Republican wins, this is their playbook, they come up with a statement that they can TM, and then it flows through their whole thing, and then they go out and they cause a ruckus. Now, this go around, they're not causing as big a ruckus, with good reason, because I think they recognize that the populace is done with that. Done with that.
Hopefully.
Like, we will not stand for that again. It's not going to happen again. But
But do you think they're playing
the
it
protest-
safe because the midterms are coming up? Or do you think they would cause an enormous ruckus if it wasn't
I
for
think
midterms?
they won't cause a ruckus because not just the midterms are up, but people are done with that.
Oh, I agree. People are done.
People are done with that. I think a lot of them are done with that. A lot of them are like, that destruction was useless, a waste. It destroyed cities. Minneapolis is, for multiple reasons, the butthole of the earth. And a lot of that has to do with BLM lighting it on fire. Right now, Seattle is emptying. It's a ghost town.
I have friends who are moving from there for that reason.
Most of their ballots get mailed to like FedEx stores for homeless people. So
and yet we can't pass the SAVE Act, where 86% of the United States citizens want it. Democrat, independents, Republicans, they all, it's a top issue.
I haven't read the SAVE Act. We want a SAVE Act, but I talked to Tracy a week ago, and she said, yes, some of the things it does will go against Utah's electoral laws. What are those things? What can Utah do to adjust that? Can Utah do a yes and? So that's a question I have, where Utah has, I think, pretty decent election laws. I don't know about its state elections because there still seems to be, SB 54 is a dung heap. But, but from what I understand, the Utah elections are pretty secure. I'm not a fan of mailing ballots because all it takes is how many people in Utah don't vote? So there's all those ballots out there just floating.
One of the discussions regarding this was Trump said at the very minimum, you have to show somewhere only registered people on the voting list are able to get a ballot mailed to them for states like ours. I think you should have to show ID to vote. And it should be written simple like that. You must have shown ID that establishes legal residence to register to vote. And that's all I would do is I'd make it like that. Honestly, my honest opinion, I'd say, fine, make it a federal holiday, and you get one voting day. Well, it'll be harder and less people will vote. And excuse me, it's not an argument that hits me in the heart because I don't care. Yeah. I don't care. I believe there's a substantial number in this nation who are not intelligent enough to vote. Yeah, well, I get that.
I'm one of them. I usually don't vote because I feel that way about myself.
I think with, even making a federal holiday, which I love, but I'm thinking of a lot of people who have to work on those holidays, even if they're off.
And that's fine.
But make it a couple weeks where before, there are states fighting to have it after voting day.
Then make
to have their vote counted.
So a week before, voting booths are open every day for a week. And then you get the federal holiday that day after. So, whatever. I don't know. There's an argument. Sorry, I'm trying to do all this. There's a lot of random arguments. Like a lot of people are monarchists because they believe that a leader of a country whose well-being and whose children's well-being are uniquely tied to the outcome of a nation causes better outcomes. Now, that hasn't been proven in the past, but a lot of people believe that. Do I necessarily believe that? I don't know. Everyone knows that I'm kind of a weirdo, crazy anarchist, although I'm an anarchist that recognizes that anarchy will not work. I'll say that outright. But what I also recognize is, aside from the highways, the government has done nothing positive in my personal life, my whole life.
Like in your lifetime. Yeah. We haven't seen government do anything great.
But they've done nothing positive that affects me. They've done a handful of negative.
Well, they did purchase, the Louisiana purchase, if we're going to go back, that affects the very home you live in. And,
He
purchases
almost got
of
impeached
land.
for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know why?
He didn't have congressional approval.
He didn't run it through Congress. He made a deal with a tyrant.
And in the end, it worked out.
Sure.
But here we go. Everybody, it's Easter weekend. This weekend, your kids are probably on spring break. I hope you're enjoying your week. If you tuned in tonight, we are grateful. We're excited to have Sheriff Wimmer on. He has been on the show quite a bit. And throughout our tenure on here,
I think he's been on twice.
Twice?
I think so. It's just me searching my brain. But yeah, I think he's been on twice. But, one time he just came on just to talk about what's going on in Tooele. It's a pretty good chat.
Well, and some of the stuff going on in public safety. This is the thing is we really want to know what's happening in public safety. It's important that a town like ours, a city like ours, a county like ours is well protected, and that, we have that still small town feel, which is priceless.
And he's also running again. We gave his opponent a chance to give his spiel. I would like Sheriff Wimmer to have the same opportunity. And that's mostly what I want to initiate and focus on, is him saying, this is why I want to continue to serve as your sheriff. Here's what I've done as sheriff. Here's where I am, moving us forward, humana, whatever, because I would like everyone to know who they're voting for as much as they can.
That's our goal. Hi, Jordan. Thanks for tuning in.
And I have sent emails out to everyone on the list, the local list, and the list may have advanced since then, and we can catch up and see if we've missed anyone. But I would also like, the ones we haven't contacted or haven't heard back from, especially, is the CD4. That's the national race for our new congressperson. We will no longer have Celeste Malloy. I'm still friends with her, still like her. I am not going to agree with everything she votes on and everything she does. And I think she expects that from me because, again, I am a crazy dumb person. But
it's impossible to
please me. I know.
No, it's impossible to please everybody. If candidates expect or electeds expect to please everybody, they're in the wrong job.
But I like her personally a lot. We still, every once in a while, I'll get a text message from her, just, checking in. Hey, how's it going? Humna. And maybe that's because she doesn't have the phone number of people out here in Tooele and wants to know what's going on out here.
She does.
Not a lot of people. The average person. Oh. Maybe she wants to know what the dumb guy thinks. The dumb kind of middle-aged man. She wants to know where he's at. Maybe that's what she does it for. That exclusive demographic that I slip right into. She's
great. And I think she is running. I know she's running again, and for her own district, which is great. Mike Kennedy, Dr. Kennedy, is running as well for our district, who I personally know. I think he's an awesome guy. Many of you may remember he ran against Mitt Romney and was defeated by Mitt Romney, but he never gave up. Hi, Cher.
Hey, Sherry, how are you? Dave says, I would please everyone if elected.
Right. I should have added that caveat. Hi, Dave.
I would please no one. I know that.
Yeah, you're over middle age now.
And they would be like, You dummy. Every day I would do it for the lulz. Jordan, how's it going? Okay.
So funny. Well,
all right. So Jordan, good job. Jordan got himself back on to the DI, be working down there. Good job, Jordan. Happy for you there. Are you working like in the department type store? Or, yeah, let us know what that's all about. That's outstanding. So, and David says you are over middle-aged now. That is a good point. Norma, the anti-political hero of the common man, the common dumb man. We can't leave that out. Matter of fact, we should probably emphasize the dumb part more. Maybe that should be dumb common man. Put the dumb first. Anyways, Norma, how are you doing? I need to get down to see you soon for sure.
So who's all going to tune in tonight for Trump's address? I'm curious to see how are you all feeling? Is everybody just kind of put their hands up? Or, I mean, are you like us where you're just like, I need to know something. I don't understand what's going on. I know Iran has asked that we get rid of any military bases in the Middle East, which, I mean, I'm here for it. But Saudi Arabia, I guess, was bombed and more of our U.S. soldiers were hurt. These are things that happen in war.
What will happen?
Hormuz is finally flowing through. I guess ships are getting through.
There's another question. What happens if we remove ourselves from the Middle East and does Iran start agitating more there, or if we removed ourselves and it made the Middle East kind of break out in peace, that would be great. But look, we've, for better or for worse, we're the global policeman right now.
Yeah, we have been for a long time.
And that was a deal set up during Bretton Woods. We were going to secure the globe. We took over the pound on the kind of the base currency of the world. Oh. And so that was kind of the deal.
Speaking of currency, Iran's currency, they are considering, I guess, going to the dollar, because the dollar in Iran, to have $1, it's over 1 million of their currency.
1 million Iranis.
I mean, talk about a recession.
Well, and that doesn't really mean much, because you're weighing against a measure that is unknown, like a peso. So they always say, well, a peso is so many pesos to make $1, but we don't know what a peso is, or a yuan, or a yen, or whatever. That could be like measured as a penny, measured as a quarter shilling type thing. So
what do you mean you don't know? I mean, it tells you right on the internet what a peso is.
Yes, but a peso, like to say, oh, look at how strong $1 is to a peso. A peso may be their penny measurement, and they just don't have.
Yeah, it is.
They don't have a multiple. Like our dollar is 100 pennies. Mm-hmm. So, and their peso may be which it is, their base measurement. Just like the yuan and the yen and all that is their base measurement. So that's like if we measured everything against a penny, it would level that out.
That's something I think Google could answer for us, actually.
I'm sure it could. Now, they may want to go with the dollar for lots of reasons. The dollar is probably more stable. We've been putting a heavy impact on their economy. So they may want to go with the dollar just because it's more stable, just like Argentina did. Argentina went with the dollar, went away from, what was it, the Bolivar? Dave will tell me. Went away from that because the dollar's more stable.
Is it, though? Dave?
Well, then what they had, yes. Norm says, like any politician, what comes out of his mouth will be lies. Oh, she's talking about me. I think maybe not with Trump, but I think it might be on mistake what comes out of his mouth.
I mean, I don't think we're in a place to decide yet.
Yeah.
I mean, until we know what's going on, I don't think a lot of us can understand exactly what we have going on. If troops are being mobilized, and I mean, we got troops all over the nation or all over the world, but they're being mobilized? How much are they telling us? And at what capacity?
You know, they were spooling up the 82nd Airborne, the All-American Division. Interesting story how they got their name, because they were the first division that wasn't all from one location. They were the All-Americans, pulled them from everywhere.
That's amazing.
It's dumb. Yeah, the stuff I come up with.
I just don't like it if we're going to be losing soldiers. That's
and Marines. They've got 2 Marine Expeditionary Forces heading over there, which is, I think, like 2 Marine. What do they say? Each one's 30,000. Probably regiments type size, maybe a little less, maybe brigade size. So,
and who's he negotiating with? Is this the round 3 regime? Because round 1 was wiped out, round 2 basically wiped out. Because I just think we need to have him address the people. And so tonight's the night. Please tune in if you can. I think that I'll be trying to get some updates from that if we're still in show. But I think that's important. And I think if we are going to start throwing, soldiers into the mix of this, that Congress needs to chime in for sure.
I think it needs to be put before Congress now. It's been over 30 days.
Well, yeah. And I mean, it is an expensive
That's the
war.
law you guys have. Over 30 days. Now it's Congress's turn. All right, let's bring Paul in. He's here with us now. All right. Sheriff Wimmer, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Good.
Hi, Sheriff.
Well, I appreciate you guys accommodating me. How are you guys doing?
We are good. So you throwing your hat back in again. Haven't had enough.
Some might say that. I just like to say we're not done yet.
All right. Well, give us your spill.
Well,
I just want to say, outsider looking in, our sheriff's department seems to run pretty smooth. Our jail down there seems to be running pretty smooth. Our jail has even housed a few notable characters and hasn't had any hiccups. I haven't seen any problems out of that. And I, for one, am a strong believer that the sheriff, that's one of his main jobs, is to maintain a place to hold ne'er-do-wells in the community and keep the community safe from them. So I'll throw that out, my 2 cents.
And mine is, I would like to, I know that as a re-election campaign, you went through this 4 years ago. And I would like to hear the successes that you found in the last 4 years, because I know a lot has happened in 4 years.
Yeah. Let me start with, as the time for filing was approaching, I was just talking to my staff and my command staff, and everyone was really on board with continuing, because all that can change dramatically with the change of the sheriff. And I hate to. There's a lot more to the decision making than just me personally. Obviously, I always have to consider my family, but also my police family, my law enforcement family. And a lot of these guys have relied on me and my leadership for their employment and their opportunities. And we have a lot more to give. And it was at that point decided that we would seek another term. And I do say we, because, your family, whether it's your at-home family or your at-work family, they go through all this with you. And we're ready for it. We're prepared for it. And here we are. We filed, and we're barreling toward convention as we speak. Successes. Well, I know I'm going to miss some, but some of the things we're most proud of most recently is we have received grant. Well, it's actually the opioid settlement money that has been distributed to law enforcement agencies across the country, and we've utilized some of ours to put in a transitional program in our jail to where we help transition inmates that are being released back into society. And we have Cheyenne. She's our transitional employee. She's funded through our opioid settlement money, and she helps identify resources that can help inmates that are getting out of jail. Help them identify resources that can help them be successful, whether it's employment opportunities, housing opportunities, something as simple as getting a driver's license or getting a current social security card, because all that stuff is needed in order to seek employment. And if we can get them released and pointed in the right direction, our hope is that they keep going that direction and don't return to the jail.
You don't want repeat customers. That's what you're saying.
If we can help it, and that goes to the expansion of our programming in the jail. We have a RISE program that really it's called RISE, and it really attacks the mindset of criminal ideas and their criminal mindsets. It helps break it. It also works heavily on addiction, because when it comes to why people return to jail, it really does hinge on addiction, as well as not thinking differently from their how they used to think when they got arrested in the first place. What kind of mindset, what kind of thinking was going through their head, or what kind of impulsive decision making caused them to break the law and land themselves in jail. And until we give them some sort of skills to think more intelligently or a little more consistent with the accepted standards of society, we're not really giving them a lot of the tools that's necessary to be successful. And so that's where a lot of our programming focuses on. And of course, addiction. We have AA in our facility, and multiple programs. We have multiple religious groups come in and facilitate programs, because we want some sort of foundation for these inmates as they become free citizens again, to build a life of change upon. And if that's religion, we help facilitate it. If it's job, if it's stable housing, we try to provide every opportunity for that to be available to them.
Is that like a rehab type of environment where they're sitting down with counselors, or is that more a program where they're doing AA and doing the steps if they want it?
Everything has got to be voluntary.
Right.
Unless a judge orders something, we lose touch and control of it. That's another thing, is people need to also understand, is once they've fulfilled their debt to society, once they've served their sentence, they are free human beings. And so when we release them, we don't have a whole lot of control over them anymore. And so we just give them the resources and tell them where they can go for the tools they need to be successful. Another thing we've brought on in the past in recent years is we offer medical assisted treatment for addiction within the facility. And upon release, we offer every inmate a shot, an injection that's supposed to suppress their addiction urges. That's really designed around opiates. It's a very expensive shot. They run about $1,500 a shot, but we fund that through the opioid money again, and that is supposed to give them that holdover until they can get into an MD or someone to help them with their addiction problems and continue some sort of medication assisted treatment until hopefully they can kick addiction in its entirety.
How long does that shot usually last?
30 days is what it's designed for.
It gives them relief for 30 days. That gives them time to hopefully get established, not run into their own old friend groups, and
get it out of their system so they're not sick.
That is the goal, is to give them that 30 days of not falling off the wagon, because that's when they're most likely to relapse, is,
Right.
immediately upon release, many of them have this mentality that they just want to go get their fix.
Yeah.
Where if they'll take the shot, it will help them cope with that until they can get additional treatment to assist with it. And so, yeah, it kind of gives them a 30-day window. And again, that's voluntary. We can't force the shot upon them. We just offer it to everyone upon release.
I mean, that's amazing because I feel like 30 days would almost be enough time for your body to get rid of the need when your body is physically addicted to an opioid.
Yeah, and that's another thing, and that's a good point, because sometimes when someone gets arrested, let's say they come in for uh, misdemeanor crimes, or or their sentence is reasonably short, because jails, we're really not long-term holding facilities. If you're getting sentenced for over a year, that typically gets sent to the state prison, that person. Well, we don't get that much time with a lot of the inmates, and so we have that brief window that they're in jail, that we can try to influence a change in their behavior, or their or help suppress their addiction. And so that's a program we've brought on with the injections, as well as the transitional program. And we even teach a, a class called Good Dad, because many of our inmates are they have fathered children, they have children on the outside, and many of them, they weren't raised by good parents, and they really don't have an example of what a good dad looks like. And
Wow.
so we have a class that is called that, Good Dad. And,
In
and
my opinion, that'd be the most important one.
yeah, and that helps give them the skills of how to be a responsible father, and that's another effort to break the cycle. Because if I have to thank my parents. My parents are 100% responsible for giving me the skill set to be successful in society. And not everyone gets that. And so this isn't, our effort to try to change that cycle, to where hopefully they can get out there and break that cycle between them and their own children, and teach them a little better way of living.
That's amazing. I didn't know. I didn't even realize that that program was there. I know that you've addressed this with your, on a different note, with your own um, employees, but is there a mental health program too? And I know mental health was big with you this past year, especially.
Yeah, we've always feel like we've always been sensitive to the mental health needs of our law enforcement brothers and sisters. We've always offered a employee assistant program, and they're always willing to come out and help us with critical incident debriefs. We've now implemented annual check-ins. In fact, I did mine last week, where from me to the last guy hired, every year we're going to sit down with an LCSW and have a conversation about what's going on in life, and that is just to make that introduction to a professional, and they will offer additional follow-up visits if the deputy so desires. And we do it for both deputies in the jail, on the road, as well as our dispatchers, because our dispatchers take some of the most traumatic calls anyone could imagine. And if people think that doesn't weigh on them heavily at night, and when they're home with their families, they would be sorely mistaken. And so we always keep in mind that our dispatchers are right there alongside us. Yes, by the phone, but uh, just imagine the phone call of a parent that comes home and has their child finds their child dead or choking or what have you. Think of the trauma that gets conveyed over the telephone to our dispatchers. I mean, it is traumatic. Them phone calls are horrible, and we're sensitive to that. And so we offer all this up to our dispatchers as well.
And I imagine dispatchers feel a sense of helplessness in situations, trying to explain how to do CPR when they can't be there to take over and someone is with reason hysterical.
Yeah.
I imagine dispatchers go through a lot.
Yeah, and another things dispatchers deal with, and people don't even really think about it. I uh, I really didn't until having conversations with dispatchers. Dispatchers are trained to talk people through CPR.
Right. Very
And
detailed.
what's that?
Very detailed explanations.
Yeah, it is a very regimented and detailed explanation to someone who has never done CPR. They will walk them through it. However, they will have people who will refuse to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and to speak to the helplessness. And so here the dispatch is doing all they can, but they can't get, and it's sometimes a family member.
Yeah.
And it's just heartbreaking for the dispatchers to sit there doing everything they can to save a life, and it not really get carried out by the person on scene. And so sometimes the very first people to initiate CPR are the arriving officers.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be so frustrating.
Yes.
And I've heard calls like that where someone has said, I can't, I don't know what I'm doing. And the whole
Or
time the
they're-
trying to, no, I'll help you. Let
They've
me help
just
you.
lost their mind. They're, the hysteria is real. It kicks in. We're all possible subjects of it under circumstance.
Yeah.
I do wish Washington State years ago implemented that if you get a driver's license, you become CPR certified, if I'm correct.
No
And
kidding.
I believe it was years ago. I learned this in 20 years ago. And that year they did it, car accident deaths dropped because everyone there was able to be kind of an initiating responder and keep blood flowing until professionals arrived. And I wish Utah would do that. It's not a hard thing to do. You could have a waiver if you have a religious
I was taught that in parenting.
inclination.
When I became a mom, they did a free class where
I
you could
learned
come
it
and
in
learn
Boy
CPR for
Scouts.
babies and adults.
I've been CPR qualified for all of my adult life, from Boy Scouts when I was about 14 until probably about 4 years ago was probably the last time I was certified.
Yeah.
Well, Sheriff, do you have any mental health issues or programs within the jail, or is that something that is handled by a different agency after they leave?
So the county has what we have it through the health department is a Department of Human Services, and the county Department of Human Services director is Peter Clegg, and there's some pass-through money from the state and the health department, and there's a contract with Valley Behavioral. Now, Valley Behavioral is at our jail frequently addressing the mental health needs of inmates. They also facilitate our MCOT team, which is a mobile crisis outreach team. And the mobile crisis outreach team is a team of professionals that when someone's in crisis, naturally the cops get the call initially. And while many of the deputies out there working and the officers with Tooele City and Grantsville City, an awful lot of them are critical incident certified, that and everyone has some level of critical incident training. However, there is no substitute for the actual professionals. And so once a scene is deemed safe for civilians to come into it, the MCOT team can respond, and then they can do their assessments. And they're actually a little better at assessing someone as to whether they need to be pink sheeted, which in law enforcement, that's an involuntary committal. if they need to be taken down to the hospital on a hold, if someone's actively suicidal, they will often be pink sheeted and taken down to the ER, at which time the hospital has their own team that does an assessment, and then they initiate what's called a blue sheet. And it's bizarre to me, but ours is printed on pink paper and theirs is printed on blue paper. And so it is true to the name, pink sheet and blue sheet. And anything beyond the blue sheet has to be court ordered, anything that's involuntarily held. And so then the blue sheet gets them in. I believe it is for, don't quote me on it because it's not my field of expertise, but it's supposed to provide a mental health hold on someone long enough to
For like the 72-hour hold you see commonly.
Yeah, and it allows the mental health professionals or family sufficient time to petition a court to grant them additional time in that.
Some cities call it Baker Act, right? They Baker Act someone. I think there's that in Florida where it's a 72-hour hold in a hospital. And it usually happens when someone has claimed they want to harm themselves.
Yeah. And often the MCOT team, they can do an assessment on them, and they may find it may not be necessary that they be involuntarily committed, and they just set up an opportunity for the person to engage in some outpatient counseling, and as long as the person is agreeable to not that but yes, that MCOT team will respond to the jail as well, because we sometimes have people who are in crisis, and then they will but in the process of being in crisis, they may commit a crime, and they still need to answer for.
Oh,
did I lose you guys?
Okay, you're
for
back.
A second.
They still need to answer for.
So they still need to answer for the crime, so they'll end up in jail, but they still may be suffering from some mental health concerns, and the MCOT team will just meet them there at the jail and do their stuff there at the jail. If you ever drive by the jail, look down. It's not uncommon at all for the MCOT car to be sitting in our parking lot, and they're in there treating inmates.
That's good to know. I know that we have a mental health crisis in this country. I think there's a lot, and I don't think people realize the impact of what you're doing and other agencies are trying to do to treat the mental health of our first responders. I know nowadays it's actually encouraged, whereas not even a decade ago, officers would avoid anything like it because they didn't want it to show up in their jacket that they actually had mental health care. They were afraid of having it mark on them.
It does show up sometimes, and it can affect your firearm purchases. The Baker Act is a Florida-specific act that we just looked it up.
Okay.
I don't know if that happens here
police.
in Utah. You're talking about police,
like a law enforcement in the 10 years ago. It was almost like shame, or they would fear retribution.
Yeah.
If they got mental health outside and whatever. And now you've got a lot of agencies like yourself that are encouraging it among their deputies and law enforcement officers as a way to keep everybody healthy, because, suicide is a big problem in our first responders. And a lot of people don't realize the impact that has on them.
And the idea of our annual check-ins is to break the stigma. That's why I do it. I'm required to do it just like everybody else, because if the sheriff has to check in, everyone should have to check in. And that is for the purpose of breaking the stigma of that idea that just because you're suffering from some issues, I mean, cops see some horrible things. Everyone will talk about, what's the most traumatic issues. And I think, bar none, the most traumatic issue is dead children. Anytime you see a dead child, a little piece of you dies with them. And so That's always been the hardest for me. Even I'm sure I've told this story multiple times. I was on my way home from work one day, and they beep out, beeps talking about priority over the radio, a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And I remember saying a little prayer to myself, please be an adult, please be an adult.
It's
And
just something you can live with.
yeah, adult, not that it makes it, it doesn't really make it better. It's just not worse.
No, it doesn't make it. It's still awful, but
Yes.
it's something you can live with. Children getting hurt,
and
it hits you hard. Like nothing else ever.
And then the rest of the radio traffic comes out, and it was a 15-year-old male. And it was one of them where, oh my goodness, it's on my way home. And I said, I've got to go, and so, I go by this house, and they're landing helicopters, and helicopter ends up leaving empty because it was an obvious fatality. And them are always the ones that hit you hardest, or anytime. And I think, well, it's just the innocence of children, but on top of that, children are so lively, and they are just full of energy, and to see them lifeless is traumatic.
Well, and to see their families dealing with it, it's probably trauma all over again.
It is heartbreaking to watch. Anytime I get a text, and because we get notifications of a lot of these. Anytime there's a dead body in the county, a lot of law enforcement leadership get notifications through text, and anytime we get it, that's what hits you. You just go, well, another family brokenhearted.
Yeah.
And,
it's awful.
Yeah, no, it's awful. My own family's had to deal with it on a couple different occasions, and just knowing the helplessness and the heartache that these families are, their journey of heartbreak is just beginning, and you just hope that they find a way to carry on, because that very day they can't imagine carrying on.
Well, the parents come out the other side different.
Oh yeah,
different than they went. Like starkly different. I lost a nephew, and they come out the other side, not good or bad, but different. Their outlook on the world is different.
Yeah. I myself have lost a couple nephews, and my brother, he did come out the other side different, and when you check in with him, how he describes it, he says, I just come to accept the hell known as my life.
Yeah.
And that's because he lost that which he loved the most.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as a parent, I mean, you feel like you lose a little bit of your future prospect.
Yeah. Well, and I may not have to tell anyone with kids this, but anytime, you grow up loving your family, and you meet your significant other, and you love the living daylights out of them. But then when you have that first child, you get exposed to a level of love you did not know existed.
True.
And so every parent that you say that to, they're like, that's 100% right. It's not that you don't love your siblings, your mom and dad, or your significant other any less. It's that little bundle of joy becomes everything to you.
Yeah, you beat last year's record.
Yes. Yeah.
The relay, the record was here, now it's here.
Yeah. And there's just that immediate connection to them, and there is nothing you won't do for that little bundle of joy.
How terrible is it when you see parents who are the worst to their children? Does that just wreck you also when you see parents who've been given this gift of a child and they do horrendous? I can't imagine. I can't imagine what it must be like for first responders, other than what they've told me. But they can't even imagine these parents treating their own children the way they do.
Yeah, it is unimaginable, but you just have to kind of categorize it as it's just one of them situations, and we're not supposed to be able to relate to that person.
Yeah.
You know, thank goodness we can't. And but yes, it does test our patience with our fellow man, and it is. And this is why we do mental health check-ins, because when you see stuff like that, you really start to question us as a species.
True.
When it's you almost start thinking, man, that's almost like reptilian, you know, to where the offspring are at most risk around their parents. I mean, it's hard to imagine, but it does happen, and it's something we have to cope with, and yet maintain a professional level of treatment to the violators. You know, maybe we can take them to jail, but that's really our solution.
And it's a mental health issue more times than not.
We've decided as a society that the police officer can't go and in the backyard and beat him black and blue. He has to go through the court process. So
which
that's just not our role. You know, that's not our role in the criminal justice system. You know, we are finders of fact, and you know, our purpose is to investigate crimes, and you know, when there is an incident of violence, to stop the violence and deliver them to the next step in the process of criminal justice, and that is file charges and send them to the county attorney or the city attorney if you're a city officer, you know, depending on the crime.
Gather evidence. And Dave has a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
First, he has a comment that's to our previous conversation about Iran. He says we should use mercenaries from other countries rather than so many American troops. Sure, Dave. Though it's been proven that our mercenaries are better than theirs. Just ask the Wagner group how that panned out for him. But anyways, he says, do we get prisoners involved in the trades?
No. One thing to keep in mind is because we are a jail, we don't have someone to really qualify for a program that would be a trade, you might say. We'd have to have them for some time.
Yeah, it'd be a prison system, not a jail.
Yeah, it really is the prison system that would offer that. You know, many people have suggested perhaps we should be teaching trades. However, no one takes into account the cost that would require that would take to set up a home building program in our jail, and our inmates would cycle through that so quickly. We'd be spinning our wheels,
and you might do a disservice to them if you get them involved in a 2-week, you know, motivation where you focus that 2 weeks on, oh, we're going to teach you how to frame a house, and they get out and all the house framing companies are like, that's not enough for us to hire you.
Yeah. You know, I know someone's recommended welding, you know, metal work inside of a facility is probably not the best. You know, we're talking about
public safety here.
But we're talking about guys that can't be given a domino set because they'll sharpen the pieces into shanks.
Is there now, do you have any work release systems? I suppose that probably mostly goes to the court and what they say, but do you facilitate that at our jail when they have that?
Yeah. So we've recently, I sit on the a criminal justice committee that the legislature required counties to stand up all over the state. And we now have what is a probationary program. It is facilitated by a private entity. And so what happens is as long as the court approves, so people can maintain employment or get employment, they can be put on an ankle monitor. And so that is an opportunity that is provided in some circumstances.
If they're not like a violent or at risk of things like that.
Right.
That tags into David's other question. Can anyone build
He's asking what are
program to help prisoners rehabilitate, or only government program can get involved with such activities? But you're saying that a private facility can assist taxpayer funded jails.
Well, yeah. And so, kind of go back to the trade thing. If you talk to deputies, if you talk to inmates, they're not recidivating because they don't have skills. It is because they don't have basically what causes them to recidivate is addiction and impulsive, poor decision making.
Impulsiveness is huge. You notice that everyone I know who, sad to say, even to this day in our 50s, who gets in trouble, there's always a track in their life that's impulsive.
Yes.
They never say, okay, let me let this simmer.
Or addiction.
They dive in. And addiction, though addiction, usually when people get into their 50s with addiction, they seem to, addiction takes away all their ability at life.
Yeah.
But the impulsiveness is huge.
Yeah. And so that's really the programs we have and the programs we have time for. One of the programs we teach is like thinking for a change is what it's called. And it is to teach them how to think differently from their past thinking that got them into trouble. And so that's really, we don't have them long enough to teach them to weld, fix cars, build a house, plumb, do electricity, and to set something of that scale up in our facility, we would need a lot more space, and we'd need a lot more manpower. And then you got to ask the taxpayer.
What about
you want to fund a program when their own kid is having to pay for a plumbing school or an electrician school?
Yeah.
Amen.
And so why would the taxpayers fund plumbing school, welding school, electrical school, and framing school for someone who has a debt to society?
I would rather fund what you're talking about, a program that helps rewire the mindset of the criminal into saying, look, your life can be better. You need to focus on your decision making. You need to focus on getting clean. These things will change your life, but you are the common denominator in everything wrong in your life, and changing their way of thinking. I think that's a great way to spend taxpayer money.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Change the man. What about, two-part question. What's the prevalence of non-high school graduates, and is there a possibility for obtaining a GED while they're in there?
That's been debated off and on for a long time. The weakness we have in it is we don't have them long enough to get them into a GED program, and then there's not a real clean handoff. And so we don't have a lot of opportunity for them to get a GED while in the facility. And that's simply because most people do not sit in there long enough to get it. Now, we contract for state inmates. Now they're a different story, and that they'll move from facility to facility that offers different programs and different opportunities. And so we teach some of the uh, uh, mental health and thinking for a change programs to state inmates. But if they want GED, there's another, that's a program that's offered in a different facility. And so they just get moved a little bit. I hate to compare it to the military, but it's almost like their MOS kind of sends them to these different programs and gets them, because often in order for them to uh, I guess, be eligible for some sort of parole, they have to accomplish these different programs. And so the state prison system is set up to ensure that that opportunity is afforded them. Now, if you're required to do it and you're doing a 20-year sentence, you may not get it in the first few years. It may take you a few years to get it, but it's a pretty well-coordinated system that the state has in place for state inmates.
Okay.
County inmates, that's unfortunately one of the misconceptions, is they think that we have them long enough to make a huge impact or set them up significantly. And we only have them for when we have them. And then, my goodness, they're always seeking for early release. They're always trying to get out as soon as they can. They're getting good behavior time and what have you. And so it's hard to put into we got them that can't finish a 12-step program in AA, and then they have to seek a program on the outside to finish their steps. And
which is good, is what we want,
yes,
right?
yes.
Get started, and then
Yeah.
hopefully they'll take over and do what they can to improve their lives.
Yeah.
What's kind of the baseline time between going to a county jail and the prison? What's the time frame that you're convicted of?
So, as a general rule, if you get sentenced for a year or more, you're going to become a state prison inmate.
Okay.
If it's less than a year, say you get a 180-day sentence, that's often done within a jail, or a 240-day sentence.
Like misdemeanor versus felony.
Yeah, or felonies that have been reductions have been negotiated and approved by the judge, and the judge just sentencing. And that's another thing is it might take a year or two for someone's case to go to trial. If it's a significant crime, all the negotiations between defense attorneys, prosecuting attorneys, they can sit in jail awaiting trial for a couple years. And that, by the time that gets to sentencing, after that case has been resolved, once sentencing is administered, they often take into account that they've been in jail for 2 years. And so they'll give them credit for time served.
And so they might get 2 more months. And
right. Or we've had them to where once they go to sentencing, they're out. Time served. You did 2 years, and it took so long to get your case resolved that you've done any amount of time that you would have been sentenced to in the first place. And so that's just a relatively common occurrence within our criminal justice system.
Can you tell me how our jail has been working with ICE and what you have found over the course of the last couple of years or year since Trump was elected, and with the ICE and all of that? How does our jail work with that?
Yeah. So just for clarification, our jail has always been cooperative with ICE. We have never been a no ICE detainees facility, and that even goes back well before my time. Sheriff Park had the same attitude toward it. Sheriff Park would take ICE detainees. But what does change significantly is, depending on the administration that's in the White House, is how many are available. And I can tell you, under Biden, we had very few. And But then when Trump got elected, when President Trump got in, and he ran on that solving immigration, and he's kind of made pretty good on his word and his campaign promise. And the number of ICE inmates cycling through our jail is significant, and uh, we're comfortable with it. And we probably went from maybe an ICE inmate. Don't quote me on the number, but under Biden it was slim to none. We're talking maybe 3, 4 a month. We do 6 to 11 a week right now.
Can you explain to the public exactly how the jail and how it being ran affects their lives and the issue of the county jail?
And so I have to admit, I was a little critical of the lack of a secure border under prior administration. And I was sheriff under that administration, while that administration was in the White House as well. And, it's not that our county hasn't been impacted by some criminals that were also illegal immigrants. We had
Most
Did I lose you
when
guys?
they commit a crime, they drop them off in our county.
Yes, and so we had a pretty publicly known one where one was he was essentially a cartel hitman along the Wasatch Front, but we were his dumping grounds out by Mercer.
Mm-hmm.
And 4 different bodies have been recovered out there.
Yeah, I remember.
A young lady murdered and dumped out on Stansbury Island by another criminal immigrant. And so, my philosophy is this: I don't want to do ICE's job, but I'm certainly going to cooperate with their efforts, because I agree with their efforts to get we have enough homegrown criminals. I don't need another country's criminals victimizing my population and my community. And so, yeah, we're going to cooperate with ICE. Back in June, we signed on to what is called 287G agreement with ICE. The 287G agreements have always been out there, but they've never been, I guess, encouraged. And the Trump administration made an effort to encourage people to enroll in them. There's 3 different programs. There's a jail model. That one, I can't.
Oh no.
He's back.
Sorry, guys.
Hey, you're okay.
I probably have questionable Wi-Fi here, but there's a jail model that just requires too many of my resources, and it would make my deputies do actually too much of ICE's work. And I'm not ready to do that. I'm not really willing to. We're spread thin enough. I don't need to take on another agency's role. But then there's the warrant officer model, and that one, because our jail has always worked with ICE, that one we signed on to it, but they have never offered the training, because every jail in the state of Utah, as far as I know, already participates to the level of which that warrant officer model would ask them to. And so our local ICE office has kind of abandoned that agreement, that they're not interested in it, and they're not interested in putting the training out, because we're really already doing it. And so it changes very little about what our efforts in the jail are when it comes to inmates that get brought in that are of questionable national or residency to our country. The other one I signed on to was called the task force model. It's actually a bit of a misnomer, because task force suggests that we're joining some sort of forces with multidisciplinary agencies or multiple agencies participating, and we go on these raids. That's not it at all. All it is I have 2 deputies that have been credentialed in the task force model, and what it allows them deputies to do is they have a hotline into ICE So if we're dealing with a carload of individuals and we're not sure of their status, they have a hotline they can call in, forward, start explaining what they have, all the information that they've got. And ICE has a huge database on a lot of illegal immigrants, and they can explain to our trained officers what their status is. Have they dealt with them before? Are they in the country illegally? Have they been deported and returned multiple times? And then it's ICE that makes the decision of go ahead and take them to the jail. We're going to place a detainer on them, or they can also decide, you know what, we don't have any issues with them as long as you guys don't have them on a crime. For instance, if it's just a traffic stop, they can even say let them go. And so it can range anywhere from let them go to nope, take them to the jail. The paperwork will be waiting for you there. And so that's really our involvement. But people will be critical of the fact that I work with ICE, but I'm telling you what, all the states having real issues with ICE are those that work against them.
It's true.
And right now, I am confident if ICE is going to come out to my county and in an effort to conduct a raid, we're going to have a conversation because they trust me to help them out where I can. And let's face it, local law enforcement knows the residents of their county or their city much better than a federal agent.
You don't hear about ICE problems in states where they work with ICE.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. You don't hear about, because ICE, I'm sure, would be perfectly happy to let the local law enforcement pick the guy up for them.
Yeah. And
Wouldn't even need to. They're right at the jail right after they just hold them. Let ICE come get them.
Yep. And so that's what we are. We're essentially, once we arrest someone, if they're an illegal, we contact ICE and ICE places a detainer. Once the criminal element of their crime has exhausted, that 48-hour hold on the detainer gives ICE a chance to come get them. And they come get them and either put them into a federal facility or arrange for their deportation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that regular citizens may not appreciate what it means to have a healthy jail. And when I say healthy, I mean, before you were sheriff, there were some issues with the jail and the costs overweighing the expense of the actual. I mean, there was a lot in the budget and everything happening. Can you tell me, like, as a citizen, why it's good to have a jail that is working well and accomplishing the goals that you've set over the last 8 years?
Yeah. So that jail was overbuilt intentionally. They meant to overbuild it because they wanted contract beds to help offset the $2 million bond that jail would the construction of it would represent. And but after its completion, the inmates just simply weren't available.
Nope. Sorry, pushed the wrong.
And so when I took office, my budget that was prepared by the sheriff before me, because when you take office, your budget's sitting there, because you take office at the first of the year. Well, your predecessor prepared your budget, and there was a 500. My budget was based on me having 40 paying customers, 40 contract inmates.
40?
I had 4.
Wow.
And so obviously I wasn't going to meet the projections that the budget had been built around. And it caused a bit of headache. And so then there just weren't a lot of U.S. Marshal inmates, because that's really what my predecessor was trying to get. And they just weren't available. So then we went down the road of trying to get state inmates. But we had so many deficiencies in our jail audit that we really couldn't get state inmates either. And so then we had to fix some problems before we were ever going to solve this lack of contract inmates.
And state inmates brings revenue in that supports
absolutely
upkeep and maintenance and running of the jail.
And so I set the mission, and our great people they executed it, and it took us about 3 years to where we have 0 findings in our audit, and we've been able to do that for 8 years now. 0 findings. We take state inmates now. Our budget's based on having 100 paying inmates every year, and really what that works into is about a $2.6 to $2.8 million revenue stream for the county. Now, let's not kid ourselves. In a jail that takes over $6 million to run, all it is mitigating. But it is mitigating, and it's real money to taxpayers. And
Right.
so we're proud of it, and that's an accomplishment that continues today. Speaking of accomplishments, but may I move on to another accomplishment that I think is important? A few years ago, and it actually was during the Black Lives Matter protests. Chief Deputy White, I have to give him a lot of credit here. He had a conversation. A citizen called him. They had some mutual friends and what have you, and said, "You know what? I have a black son. I adopted him when he was a baby, and he's, hitting his teen years, and I'm scared for him." And so Chief Deputy White, he comes into my office, and we start talking through some of the concerns. And I said, we kind of we'd always been entertaining bringing on a civilian review board for our uses of force and our car chases. But there's always some risk, or at least there's some perceived risk, of letting citizens chime in on a police use of force. And it's not real popular with your deputies. They almost think you're hanging them out to dry. Well, we decided it was time. And so we constituted that shortly after the BLM efforts, roughly 2020, 2021 timeframe. And that thing is fully up and running. That concerned citizen, that concerned mother, she sits on our board. And she was one of the first invited to join that advisory board. And I'll tell you what, I can't express to you how much that has helped our use of force. Just the knowledge that, you always tell deputies, don't do anything you don't want on the news. And that doesn't always resonate. But with the civilian board actually reviewing their uses of forces, I'm telling you, our guys utilize their critical incident training, their de-escalation training, almost overly so. And so we had a few little bit embarrassing uses of force initially that I thought, yeah, that doesn't look good. It might be justified, just doesn't have a good look. And so we modified a lot of our practices and even our policies when it comes to using force in the jail quite a bit. And I'm telling you what, anymore, when we present to the advisory board, they are so complimentary of the professionalism these deputies express to human beings that they had to use force on. And that we haven't, since we've constituted this advisory board, we haven't had a deadly force situation, but they would review that as well. And we would invite that to be part of their charge to look at that. And so what they'll do is they review it, and then they do a little write-up with an opinion on how the deputy did. It's just interesting to get a lay person's perspective of what we're doing. And
Did you put any of these members on there through any type of hands-on training, like
Not
or exercise, or even argumentative people?
Initially, what happens is there's always a lot of questions initially because they don't understand always why we do what we do. And so they don't necessarily understand the tactics. But after they've been through a couple review meetings, and we do it roughly quarterly, depending on how many uses of force we have in any given quarter. And but as they become more familiar with police procedures and some of the threats that we as law enforcement are seeing that a civilian may not pick up on, they really become a little more understanding in why we do what we do. But anymore, the majority of their reviews are appreciative of the patience of the deputies, their decision making, and just the professionalism, because they can have some pretty disagreeable human beings, and but yet they keep their cool and their composure. And I actually couldn't be more proud of the deputies because they have adjusted so well. And we knew it was risky, but we had no idea it was going to accomplish all that it has for our sheriff's office. But we're proud of it. It's been a great addition. One more thing we've done, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but we now have a much larger footprint on social media. And that is just in an effort to stay a little more engaged in one of the communication avenues that society uses. And it's to push out information. It's also to give just the citizens, the sheriff's office on their phone, you might say. It doesn't take the place of calling us to report a crime, or, please don't ever use it to say, hey, someone's trying to break in my house. 911 is still the best method of getting that message to us. But we'll get messages from people all the time inquiring about, are we hiring, or non timely reporting sometimes will come through messaging. It's still not ideal, but we're pretty proud of the efforts we've put into social media, over the last year and a half.
It's helping you to point out things that are great. It also helps you to get the public's information out there. If you do have a case and you're looking into something, I've seen a lot of, do you know this person, or, some small details. And I feel like there's a lot of the community-oriented policing that is entwined in our sheriff's office that I didn't see, 10 years ago, which I really, really appreciate. I also, as a Stansbury resident, I appreciate the substation that is open, where in our little community at any given time, even any time of night especially, you've got deputies that are really close within the neighborhood with that substation open. And I feel a very a community-oriented policing feel where it's, hi, how are you? It's a really small town feel, but very professional. And I have yet to meet a deputy that hasn't been outstanding.
Well, I appreciate that. And we feel we've done a lot to improve the view the public has on deputies, law enforcement in general. But we feel the deputies we employ are top notch.
Well,
yeah,
on that note,
I would argue here in the county and in the city, Tooele City, law enforcement has been exemplary. I haven't dealt with them in any, me being on the other side, but just in passing, and you don't hear horror stories about them and anything else. And a lot of that might have to do with the populace not being self-agitated, I would argue. Whereas in other places they are, because when an officer pulls you over, it's it's a two-way street. It's on both sides. And if he comes up and you're agitated, it goes just
Sets
as
the
bad
tone.
as if he's agitated.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And all the more reason we insist on the deputies being professional, regardless of.
You control what you can.
Yeah. And the end result will be the same. You know, if you're writing a ticket, write the ticket. Don't let the attitude determine the ticket.
Oh, that's
Yep.
a good point. So I wanted to go over some things that I've heard that were not popular
Please.
and let you address them.
Okay.
One is that you can't keep your staff, or that our staffing needs are not good.
You know, I don't know what it is about campaigns that bring that narrative out by opponents, but you know, I dealt with this in past campaigns, and you know, and at that time I thought, man, is my turnover significantly more than anyone else's? And so I started crunching the numbers, and it wasn't. Uh, the the hypocrisy of it was that my turnover was actually lower than my opponent's agency's turnover rate. And while I haven't calculated my turnover rate lately, but I'm confident it falls right in line with uh, most agencies that are similarly situated. You know, there's a little bit of again, it's kind of funny when they're saying I can't, you know, my opposition's claiming I can't keep deputies, but yet his own agency's got a post for hiring, you know, and we're hiring. We're hiring. I have 3 openings. 2 of them are for growth because we got approved 2 new deputies with the new budget year, and the other one is probably fairly well-known termination of late that has been making noise out there on social media. But other than them 3, we're okay. And there's also this misconception that turnover is a bad thing. When I look at my last 4 separations from employment, I had a sergeant that retired. Well, that's good. You know, he worked his entire career for that day, and he accomplished it. And we gave him a gun and a shadow box, and wish him all the best in his future endeavors, and hope he has a long, healthy retirement. Eventually, I'm going to get there. It's not because I don't like the sheriff's office. I retired because it was time, and I did lose 1 deputy to another agency, and he was a good kid. We would have loved to have kept him. But honestly, the other 2 were terminations for misconduct. And I don't view that as bad turnover. That is necessary turnover. And I don't apologize for holding deputies accountable for their conduct. And that's how I keep the professionalism to the level it is they're held accountable, and they know what they're held accountable to.
Do you want to talk about that? I know
About the incident
because
that is making the rounds.
I've seen it on social media. KSL did an article, and I was bugged by it because I actually read it, and it was spelling out, you know, who was talked to and the incident. And I would love it for you to share your perspective. We have the horse. Let's get it out of the horse's mouth, shall we?
Yeah, and you know, and you know, it is a little bit of an elephant, you might say, in the room. So let me start off with this. Because it's a termination, and it is he has appealed his termination. I'm real limited on what I can talk about as far as the details of the internal affairs investigation on him. However, I can talk about, you know, the news story, because he was the one that released the document that said he was terminated for lying. And that document was written by me. And yes, he was terminated for lying. I know it should surprise nobody that lying cops are not very usable. They have a hard time testifying in court because your attorney has to establish their truth, their truthfulness on the stand. And meanwhile, the defense attorney is trying to tear it down and has pretty good reason to question their truthfulness. So, yes, he was terminated for lying. What I can't speak about is the details of the lies. And so I'll avoid that. But kind of where it all started was the arrest of a family member of mine, and this is what he was. This is what the news story was about: was the arrest of a relative of mine, and that happened back in September. My wife gets a call. They're wondering, this kid had been pulled over. His truck was getting loaded onto a tow truck. They didn't know what was going on. Parents were unavailable or out of town, and so she asked me if I knew what was going on. I said, well, let me see what I can find out. So I called down to the jail, and the sergeant on duty said, yeah, deputy just brought him in. It's DUI. I said, oh, okay, is he going to make bail tonight? And he says, I don't know. He says, this time of day, sometimes the judge gets to the probable cause statements, sometimes they don't. And he says, I'm not sure. So I said, well, his parents are unavailable to post bail, so I'm going to head down just in case he makes bail. So I went down, and this is where, he, and these are his words. This is the ex-deputy's words, that I interrupted the investigation. The funny thing about all this is, he had nothing to do with the case. He was not at the jail. He wasn't the arresting deputy. He had nothing to do with the case. He knows very little about the case. And he knows very next to nothing about the details of the case. And so he likes to put it out there that I interrupted the deputy's investigation. When I got to the jail, the deputy was packed up, ready to leave. And he'd done everything. My family member was sitting in the jail cell. And so I was just talking to the arresting deputy. I said, hey, so what did you get him on? And he says, oh, it's DUI, marijuana. And I said, all right, well, good job. Then he went about his business, went back to work. So about then, the jail sergeant came to me and said, yeah, Sheriff, he's not going to make bail tonight. And I go, okay, let me talk to him. So I go into the cell and I say, look, buddy, you're not going to make bail tonight. We'll check back tomorrow. So I left the jail, and he spent the night in jail. And I was at work the next day when the on-duty sergeant that was working in the back called me all late morning and said, hey, the judge just set his bail, and so he's available for bail. You can post bail whenever you want, Sheriff. So I went out to the kiosk just like any other citizen would have to, and I bailed him out.
So essentially what you're saying is the only extra access you had is what anybody with a working knowledge, such as another deputy in the jail, had, that he would be able to go in there and say to his relative, you get to stay in my house tonight. I'll see you tomorrow. Okay.
Absolutely. And so, and then after that, I had no knowledge of the case. And so, an important.
And the kid did get charged, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The job was done by the time you got there. So the kid got
charged. The kid has to get the heavy insurance. If he gets to drive it all, the kid has to do all the other fun stuff that comes with the DUI.
His license was suspended, still is suspended. But then I had nothing else to do with the case thereafter. And so, but what's being spun is, so I guess what I want to point out is anything I actually have influence over or control over, um, uh, there's nothing that says I couldn't have called that deputy and said, hey, leave his truck alongside the road. I'm going to pick it up.
That would be a breach.
Yes.
Or if you said, no,
also,
don't take him to jail, release him to me on the side of the road.
Yes.
That would be a breach. But the kid still got charged.
Well, yeah. Well, he was put in handcuffs, booked into jail, put in a jail cell, spent the night in jail, and only once the judge, and that's another narrative that this so-called ex-deputy that has 16 years of experience, which surprises me, he's trying to say that DUI sit in jail for 48 hours. Do you know in a lot of parts of our state, agencies will cite and release on a DUI? Salt Lake County.
Tell me it's cite and release to someone else.
Yes, they yes.
Drive home safe. Here's your ticket.
No, usually what they'll do is they'll arrest them, take them to their station, conduct the breathalyzer or the blood draw, whatever they're doing, and then they issue them the citation, call a family member to come pick them up from the station.
And that I'm actually fine with because, again, on the DUI, I think the big thing is not the 24 hours in jail. I think the big thing should be heavy fines, heavy insurance, a cost that they have to remember every month. But if he didn't spend the night in jail, I'd be like, oh, maybe some leverage happened. But he spent a night in jail. If he didn't go before a judge and get bail terms, that would be different. But he got bail terms. He got all that.
Yes. And so then what gets alleged is that I somehow influenced the dismissal of his charges, which anyone who knows our criminal justice system knows I don't determine the dismissal of charges. That's the county attorney. There's a clear delineated handoff. Our deputy sends up the charges on this kid, and the county attorney then picks up the football and runs with it.
Did he get charged?
They dismissed the case under the, as the news story reported.
This is what I have to jump in on, Sheriff.
Yeah.
This is a potential alleged DUI for marijuana.
Yeah.
This is something that I can't wrap my head around in the state of Utah or any state for that matter. If I have smoked marijuana in the last 5 minutes or the last month, my blood is going to show THC in my blood.
Not in the last month.
It's under 30 days, but it is in the 30-day range. How are we, and this is a separate deal, or this is probably what a prosecutor is thinking out loud. How do we prove, aside from evidence of what the deputy witnesses in the traffic stop, how do we prove this person is intoxicated when it's marijuana? Because this has been a problem in Colorado, in Washington, in Nevada. Getting these cases actually charged, these cases get dropped all the time.
Well, and it'd be inappropriate for me to speak on behalf of the county attorney's office or their reasons behind dismissing. They issued a statement to the news media that did the story. But to suggest that I influenced it would suggest that the county attorney would compromise their character for me. And I'm telling you right now, they wouldn't do that for me, and I wouldn't do that for them. And if they were trying to influence a decision to arrest out on the road for us, they will get that case in their hands in due time. And once we hand it off to them, we don't get to chime in on it. And like I said, it becomes a bigger animal if they think that the county attorney's office is going to compromise their integrity for someone else. And I would never ask anyone to do it. I didn't ask anyone to do it, and nor would I think that anyone in that office would do it. And And
They
so,
said so in the article.
right, it said
Attorney
so.
said, I didn't even know this person was related to the sheriff.
Right. And there's no reason for them to know. I mean, let's think about. Let me kind of tie that relationship out. This is the son of my wife's stepsister through marriage. Now, look, I love the kid. I'm not going to deny, my association with him. But there's just no reason for anyone in the county attorney's office to know we were related. We don't share a name. The family ties are relatively distant, and it's just, yeah, it would just be insane for us to think that any of the number of prosecutors up in the attorney's offices are going to say, "Oh yes, I know this kid's associated with the sheriff." No, and so they didn't know the decision-making attorney did not even know there was a relationship until he got a call from the news.
Well, and I could look at it like, to Holly's point, I imagine prosecuting a DUI on marijuana is probably a lot harder than on alcohol, because alcohol has that immediate test structure that's set up where marijuana's isn't as good. And I mean, unless the guy's a daily smoker, that stuff can be cleared out of your system in a week.
Yeah.
And it doesn't show up as like on alcohol, we can say this much alcohol was in his blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Marijuana, can you measure how much THC is in their blood?
They do have like a nanograms that they can. Now, what that is, I don't know.
Is there a legal limit? Is there a chargeable limit?
It's metabolite. So to Holly's point, metabolite shows up, days after use or shortly. It's also present shortly after use, and so yes, it can be a little bit bit of a moving target. And so, but it's something I do want to reiterate.
Attorneys love it.
But he got it.
I'd like to say is, I support the deputy's arrest.
Yeah.
That to me, that's not in question. But something that people have to keep in context is our burden of proof for arrest is probable cause.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt to take custody of somebody.
Your deputy may have to sit on the stand.
And I believe my deputy had probable cause for the arrest. And so I don't have an issue with the arrest. However, I'm also not the attorney that has to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. And I'm going to leave that to the attorneys to decide what's the best course of action.
Yeah. What if the attorney has a couple of alcohol DUIs that he's got going to court, and he's like, I don't have time to stack this possible loss up.
Yeah.
A lot of them, I mean, golly, you've got attorneys that won't even press. They can't get a conviction on something that you may have video evidence of. Trust me, I've been there. And they decide not to take the case and they drop the charges. And you're, as a victim, you're going, what the hell? But if this just sounds like this happened in September, you said?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So this employee decided to wait. This is what got me when I first read the article, and not just the headline, but I went in and read the article because it does call your character and your integrity into question. And I was bothered by how many people on Facebook were just like, yeah, this is dirty. This is this. And I'm like, did anyone read the article? And at the same time, why are we hearing about it now that filing and campaigning has started? And I'm not going to say anything. I mean, I don't want to say anything about your opponent, but I think it does speak to the character of the person who's angry, who was let go or terminated, that they would bring this to the press. And then when the press goes to get an information from you, your hands are tied where you can't speak about the termination.
One more detail. When Daniela Rivera reached out to me and wanted to talk to me, I told her, I said, if you can get Mr. Goss to sign a release of information, this will be a lot more interesting conversation. And she initially goes, we're going to get one. And and I knew he wouldn't do that. He doesn't want, he wants to be able to spin the narrative as he sees fit. He doesn't want both sides of the story shared. And so sure enough, a half hour before our appointment was the next day, I get an email from her. Yeah, he declined to sign that release of information. And I emailed her back. I said, doesn't surprise me. And it didn't surprise me. What would have surprised me is if he had done it. And so, and I talked to her for an hour and a half, and and you get that little blip that you guys see, and but there's some nuggets of information that that are accurate. A, he was terminated for lying. B, she was unable to find any evidence whatsoever that I influenced the dismissal. And she says that. And what's funny is I challenged her to say that, because I asked her, I said, do you think I did this? She goes, well, I don't know that it's for me to say. I said, well, what have you found out you're an investigative reporter? What have you found? She goes, I haven't found anything that says you influenced this dismissal whatsoever. I said, but you don't have the guts to say that in your news story. And I'll be danged if she didn't surprise me and she said that on camera, that there was no evidence that I influenced it.
See, I can't blame the news for running it, because it's probably one of those juicy stories that the reporter gets stars in their eyes over.
It's clickbait.
It is. Everyone's going to want to read this because the headline's so juicy.
Yeah.
And this is my key to moving up to the Denver Post or something else.
She was one of two media outlets that reached out to me. The other one, once the story started to formulate, they dumped it.
Wow. So somebody is trying to get to you.
Because that guy's got a house out here. He doesn't want to sell his house. He's not looking forward to Denver.
One more important point is, and I made this to the reporter. I made this point. I said, what they're alleging is official misconduct. An official misconduct under state statute is a Class B misdemeanor, and the punishment can be removal from office. However, the only person that they have reported this to is the media.
Right.
So
good point.
Even our policy, if they become aware of misconduct and it is the chief or the sheriff, your organization, you're supposed to report it to the county attorney under our policy. And if you don't do it there, you're supposed to report it to the attorney general's office. Well, they don't want that to actually happen, because you don't want Derek Brown or Scott Broadhead going on the news and saying, yeah, we've conducted an investigation and we are exonerating the sheriff. Where the news media just throws the stake out to the wolves. So where's, again, I mean, he has a hard time following policy, hence why he's terminated. But yeah, there's a policy where if you believe your sheriff has conducted some sort of misconduct, you're required to report it. Well, and it's not to Daniela Rivera. And so
there's a procedure that goes up the chain and of command, which is proper. And then you would have an outside agency investigate, which I believe has happened, right? Or
no,
at least with him, did he get investigated?
So his conduct did what we opened up what we call an internal affairs investigation.
Okay,
this is where I got to be careful. Now, if there's anything criminal that a deputy conducts, we will deconflict that outside of our organization for criminal charges. But internal affairs is internal. It's about violations of policy, and so yes, you can violate policy to the point to where it justifies your termination. and it doesn't necessarily have to rise to a criminal level before we can terminate. And so
That investigation that was private made the determination for him being terminated. Like, you didn't just go in there and go, "You're fired" for even this accusation. Like, there's
no,
outside
absolutely
system.
not. In fact, even he is telling the world, how he was put into a control room for 4 weeks. Well, that was while we conducted the investigation.
Asking his counterparts who know he's looking at cameras all day or something.
It was just it was just hard to watch, but but his little recording is just full of untruthful stuff, and so this, one of them is he said, speaking of his what are the it's called modified admin leave. He says no one in law enforcement's ever heard of that. That's not, well, he probably hasn't, because he's not read the policy. But our policy, which is shared by numerous agencies across the state, it's called a company called Lexipol, specifically calls out modified admin leave. And it's not at all odd for us to reassign someone that's being investigated to a different division or into a different assignment. Even officer involved shootings, you may bring them back, but you may not put them in a law enforcement role for a little bit until everything's cleared, and you then work them back into their regular assignment. But,
well, if there's a question about an officer, it's pretty obvious you don't want to put them where they come into contact with the public, where you may have to, as an agency, answer for their wrongdoing.
Right. And especially if you have one that their integrity is in question. Do you really want them out making decisions on people's freedom or not?
Mm-hmm.
And so we just pull them out of that role for the time being. And if everything checks out in the internal affairs investigation, they go right back to their regular assignment. And so, no, to your point, Holly, no, I did not walk in and say, "You're fired." The internal affairs investigation took place, and the termination was this was the outcome of the investigation.
I mean, this is a lot of noise that you've been dealing with, I'm sure, over the last few weeks. The timing was impeccable. I have someone that's been in politics as long as I have. I can smell it the second I saw it, and I don't like it. I don't like it. But I think it's a lot of noise that I know you're working with delegates right now, and you're trying to get in front of delegates. And have you had the opportunity to talk to delegates? You're facing convention coming up. Have you had an
Yes.
opportunity to share with delegates your side?
And what I do is I address it when they bring it up to me.
Great.
In the conversation, because a lot of them aren't buying into it anyway, and they know better. And this is what's been an interesting thing is, what's going to happen is my opposition's going to learn the downfalls of negative campaigning, because right now he's got that deputy joining him at his meet and greets. The Grantsville meet and greet, that deputy was in his booth.
Well, that'd be hard to do, because
That's
you don't. That's a rather hefty taint you're bringing in.
I would invite that deputy then to sign the agreement that allows for the sheriff to talk about the situation.
Yes.
If there is a sincere situation, we welcome that deputy here. We'd also, under the grounds that he signs that.
I'll welcome him here regardless. Because
not with the sheriff's hands tied.
But,
it's one word against another.
I happen to believe if he's going to go out and defame stuff, even if it doesn't go through a court ruling, the truth will come out and he'll be persona non grata.
And that's our confidence. We're going into this appeal to his termination we're going in confident that the truth will prevail, and that the termination will be upheld.
Yeah, if you just let paperwork show why, that's why.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple.
Well, with that, you've been accused of sending single officers into domestics. I've heard you don't have a dog. We talked about the canine.
Yeah, here's the thing. Again, and I know a couple different people have suggested to my opponent that he reach out to me, have a conversation, because what's happened is this disgruntled ex-employee is just feeding him full of misinformation, and unfortunately, he's not vetting any of it out. He's really just absorbing it and perpetuating it like it's truth. Uh, Responding to domestics by themselves. So I did we ran the stats for 2025. Our office responded to 79 domestics. 13 of them show only one deputy having contact with the case. However, 9 of them was because they were after the fact and often handled by phone. So you don't need a slew of deputies responding to that domestic. There are 4 of them where, could use some further inquiry. But what's hard to understand is we don't condone or we don't require deputies to respond to domestics alone. We back up highway patrol on their accidents, and if we're running a little lean or we got deputies tied up in other places, they will help us out. They will back us up. We back up the city will back up us. No one's expected to respond to a domestic alone. In 4 cases where they may have, I hate to armchair quarterback what they were feeling or what they were, what the circumstances were. These guys are pretty sharp. They're pretty good at picking up on threats. And I'm confident if they handled it alone, it's because they didn't identify a concerning threat.
That or sometimes time is of the essence.
And I don't want to, like I said, it's hard for me to armchair quarterback, but as a general rule, when we ran the stats, we had numerous domestics where there was 4 responding officers.
Well, they are the most dangerous, would you say, when it comes to regular response with law enforcement? It is the domestics that usually get most out of hand. And when I think about what you're suggesting, before I would even believe that stat, I would want to know the dispatcher's point of view, because a lot of times dispatchers will dispatch a deputy to a location, but the threat is gone. The person has left and the victim is calling, and how they send it, they decide to send those available. And under what circumstances is that done?
Yeah. And that's absolutely true. They could all be responding, and then if they find the one party has left the scene, it's not that there's no threat. It's just, okay, now we have a little different situation where you might have one go to the house while the others are in search of the vehicle description to see if they can locate the other party. And so there's any number of reasons that you might only see one actually check out at the address of the domestic. And so if they get there and they never locate the other party involved, and they get all the statements and what have you, and they clear with the understanding that if the other party comes home, please call us back. That type of stuff, and to go to the domestics and the threat. Domestics are often, they're just very emotional. Very few things, anytime you're in love, you're open up for hurt. And so they're very emotional incidents. And so, yes, that's why they can be dangerous for all those involved. but
And they can switch.
yes,
They
yes,
switch commonly where the individual who called, once it comes into contact that the person that he or she is in love with starts getting set for new bracelets.
Now they turn and fight.
yes.
know.
And
I've seen it with my father.
That's a fairly common theme in domestics is, I just want you to keep him from beating me up. I didn't want you to
Don't
keep him to
arrest him.
jail. Yeah, don't take him to jail. I just want the violence to stop. Well, that's just the tools we have, is the separation. And under state law, we have to create that separation in some way, shape, or form. And it's often done by booking one or
Well,
the
that's
other.
why that the state has taken it out of deputies' hands,
Yeah.
because it is such an emotional thing, and deciding who's at fault is difficult.
Yeah. And so, that's just a silly claim. And it's just inaccurate. And it's just maliciously thrown out there, and it's just false information with no data to back it up. I'm the one with the data, and I would be happy to share the data, but he won't. He won't engage.
Sheriff, I personally have asked him. I think that the man running against you is a great guy, and he does have integrity, and he is smart. And I have asked him to reach out to you on different times. I haven't discussed this situation with him at all. And to be totally fair, I don't want to put this in his lap. However, I think a conversation between him and you would be, like you said, it would be beneficial to him, only because this is our county. This is our constitutional rights. Integrity is everything in a sheriff. And you have to trust the person that is responsible with your liberties in this county, that person is meant to be in that position, and they belong there and they earn it. Now you've earned it for 8 years and you're asking for 4 more. The person that is calling your integrity into question, I think that if you don't have the opportunity to actually face your accuser publicly, at least someone who is also asking for that job should also show up with the utmost integrity. At least for me, that's highly important to me. And you've been transparent. You've probably told us more than you even should have. I mean, I'm grateful that you wanted to talk about this, or that you were willing to.
Yeah.
But again, integrity is everything. And to anybody listening at home, reach out to Paul. He's got his Reelect Paul Wimmer on Facebook, and reach out to Ryan, which we had on 2 weeks ago. Get to know what their issues are. We've talked about a lot of what you've done with the jail. I really want to know what your plan is. I mean, we haven't even touched on what you've done for your deputy salaries in comparison around the state, how you've tried to raise salaries. You've worked hand in hand with the county on that, trying to give our department the most that it's needed. Go on and talk about what you're planning on in the future, and maybe anything else you want to think about.
Yeah. So as we move forward, obviously growth is of our greatest concern. And what we've done is working with the county council and the manager's office. We're going to have a comprehensive study done to on our staffing level. Is our staffing level appropriate for our population and the number of calls and what have you? And there's always this concern that, well, what happens if the staffing level comes back and you can't afford what it recommends? Well, that's not its sole purpose. The staffing study is also going to really take a deep dive into our operation, because sometimes, we can't get out of our own way sometimes, and it's kind of hard for us to see the forest through the trees. They're going to take a look at our efficiencies. What are they? And what can we do that is more efficient, and that would minimize the number of deputies required to keep the level of public safety our citizens demand. And so we thought, the council and I, as part of the 2026 budget, we decided let's do a deep dive into the staffing study. Let's look at what we can improve with the resources we have. But probably more importantly is what I wanted was I want some sustainable plan moving forward based off of data. And, this is, Scott Wardle, Councilman Wardle, and the council in general, they talk about being data driven. Well, this is an opportunity for us to gather data and to it be unbiased data. It's not me, the sheriff, just screaming, I need more staff, I need more staff. But it's a unbiased, data-driven study on what we can do better to minimize our workload and to do more with less. But also, if we need more, we need more. And what does that look like with the projections of the growth within our county? And so we look forward to it. I think it's probably uh, uh, a little bit overdue because we've been growing by leaps and bounds throughout the county. There's always this myth that as the city grows, it's only them that get impacted. No, the county gets impacted too, because only the county runs a jail. Only the county does paper service. And so as citizens, uh, as all populations grow, it's our deputies serving all their divorce paperwork and what have you, any number of papers that get served. That falls on the duties of the sheriff's office. And so we do get directly impacted by growth, regardless of what community they're moving into.
Well, but you also are contracted through new communities that have become
Absolutely.
cities themselves. So
Yeah.
what that city demands of you also has to be considered in this study,
Yeah.
which I think is a great idea. And it's right up the alley with what our council has already projected to the people.
Yeah, and that's why it needs to be an unbiased look, because it impacts so many. It impacts every citizen in the county, but
Right.
but also, I promise you, all the leadership is watching with great interest at what this study says, because it will impact Lake Point City, Erta City, Stockton City, and so when we're making these claims that we need more, we'd better have the data to back it up.
Right.
And this is the our opportunity to get that data. Another thing we're looking at the county is another pay study. Have we been able to keep pace? We're never going to keep pace with the absolute highest paid along the Wasatch Front, but are we competitive enough to keep our deputies? And I always ask them to do comprehensive, as in, I want to know the entire compensation package, because something that gets lost in the weeds is what benefits. Also, does that organization participate in Social Security or not? Because all that, uh, because some agencies, they dumped Social Security and they threw in a 401 and higher wages. And depending on who you are, if you're good at managing a 401, that might be your cup of tea. But if you're not, my goodness, Social Security is going to be kind of what you kind of rely on after age 65, in addition to your pension.
Sometimes too, I just want to say, sometimes people don't realize, but a lot of first responders work for those exact benefit packages.
Yeah.
They're going to give 20 years or 25 years of their life, and that retirement is what they're working for. So they're promised, and then that they'll get more on the back end, which is how we get superb police enforcement, like in a lot of cities.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I worked on when I was president of the Utah Sheriff's Association, was that Tier 2 public safety retirement. They used to, because they gutted the retirement system back in 2011, and basically they made you do 25 years, and at that 25-year mark for Tier 2 public safety, you get 37.5% of your high 5 years. Well, in 2019, we finally got it passed that yes, you do have to do the 25 years, but you're back up to 50%, because Tier 1, us dinosaurs in the game, after 20, you're eligible for 50% of your high 3. So we did get the needle moved finally a little bit in 2019. And we're pretty proud of that. Another thing that the county council was supportive of this, and I'm appreciative of it because our dispatchers can fall into public safety or non-public safety retirement, and the public safety retirement's more expensive for the county, and they went ahead and approved to move them into the public safety retirement system, which enriches their pension a little bit better, so that they can be out at 25 years if their years of taking traumatic phone calls is just weighing on them, and they don't have to wait for the non-public safety 30 or 35 years.
Wow.
And so yeah, it was my fight to bring to them, but again, you can't do it without the council support, and so I have to give kudos where kudos is deserved, and they approved that. And so yeah, we've made heavy impacts on the entire compensation package. I suspect our hourly rates are still lagging behind some agencies, but when it comes to like the tier 2 retirement, part of that retirement became employee funded. Well, with the blessing and the support of our council, we went ahead and picked up the entire employee cost of that as well. Because our tier 1, we already do. You're required to pick it up as an organization, and so just to keep that fairness, in place, the county council approved my request that we pick up the employee portion of the tier 2 pension as well. And so, there's, everyone says, you fight for it, and yes, you do fight for it, but in the end, sometimes it is a fight, but in the end, it's okay. I'm okay with the fight, and the council, they've been pretty receptive to the challenges I put forth to them.
Well, and I don't know if a lot of people know, but we do have a police academy here in Tooele County.
Yep.
And you're always
TTC.
hiring, and maybe a lot of people are willing to work for a little less hourly to stay home in their own county, which is what benefits you. And I know you're are you on the board with the police academy here?
I am, and I apologize. I could take 6 to 8 hours of your guys' time, with pee breaks here and there, but yes, the academy out here has been great. And to kind of go to kind of the concern of turnover, we tested last Friday new recruits, and we held a hiring test where they come out and do the physical fitness test. And I think we had 30 applicants, 22 actually showed up, which, understand, a few years ago, you might have 8 applicants, 4 might show, and 2 of them will fail. So Friday, I believe we had roughly 30 applicants, 22 showed, 21 passed.
Wow.
And I'm confident, if we're down, to 1 termination and growing by 2 more deputies, I'm confident them 3 deputies are sitting in that group of 21.
You now have a list to draw from, which is like the old days with law enforcement.
The other side of the hard problem where you've got to dig in deeper on the people to make your decision.
Yeah. And we would love to say that we've got the perfect formula for hiring the perfect deputies, but as my recent terminations prove, that's not always the case.
There's no such thing.
Yeah, if I ever figure it out, I'm going to sell it for millions to.
Well, you'll sell it. Then you'll recognize that humans are moving targets and people change. People might be one person today and a different person in 5 years. People might go through an experience that changes them into a different person.
Well, and the public changes too. I mean, we've seen our roller coaster of what the public considers good police work, bad police work, and then the in between. So we have been on for almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
We need to call it. I want to talk about where people can look up your stuff before we.
I also got some comments for you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Blair Hope. Everyone knows Blair. He says, great job, Sheriff. Matt Jones says, hello. And Tanner Jort says, he says, Carver is grasping at straws, contacting KSL with his story. He knows he doesn't have a shot at the election.
And Tanner, we're not suggesting that Carver has done that.
Yeah, I didn't get the read that Tanner was a dishonest or a negative guy at all when I interviewed him.
Carver.
I
don't believe Carver contacted the.
I didn't.
It's the.
I didn't get the feeling of that at all from him.
Deputy.
One thing. Here's one thing that I have lived with this sheriff for 8 years now, and I'm not saying that the sheriff's department before him was bad, but even me, the Luddite, low IQ person, recognizes some of the positive changes that has happened in the county. Is there things that could be improved on? Of course, but I would argue the jail, I still think and stand by that is one of the largest applications the sheriff is in control of. And our jail is, it just seems to be running so much smoother, and it's not turning a profit. That you don't want government agencies to turn a profit, but it's making it so that it's not as big of a burden on us as it otherwise could be.
Well,
yes. Yeah. And one minor correction. I'm in my third term. So
okay, 15.
So I'm.
Is it 12 years then, or?
Yeah, so I'm on my 12th year. The end of this year will be the 12th year as your sheriff. And
is it really 2014?
Well, I remember you rerunning, talking to you 4 years ago.
2014 is when you were elected. Is that right?
Yeah, 2014 was the election. I took office in 2015.
I can't believe it's been. Well, that's 10. 11. It'll be 12. No, 2015 to 2025.
Yeah. Yeah, but we're in 2026, and when you start counting the years, when you go 15, 16, you're going to arrive to 12 when you get to 26.
Oh no, I get 12. Okay, I thought you were saying 14. I don't know why.
No. 4-year terms. I'm 11 years, and what? We're 3 months in, almost 4. Well, 4 months in. 3 months in to this.
3 terms. You're right.
Yeah, I really wanted to make it clear. I personally I think Carver would probably be a good sheriff. I just know the sheriff that I do have. So that were I to vote, that would weigh on me.
Yeah. Well,
I wouldn't turn my nose up at either of you at all.
Yeah. And, there's, and I guess this is where, I prefer to put my best foot forward and see how things shake out. And it's unfortunate that a disgruntled deputy has attached himself to my opponent's campaign, because I think it actually is hurt some of his narrative, because I think he has great things to say.
Mm-hmm.
It gets overshadowed by a angry, disgruntled deputy, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that Carver would welcome that in. Instead of running on the message that he wants to bring, he wants to run on allowing someone to carry his message for him, where that person has a negative message. And even if, let's just say, even if the guy is correct, that's still something that's tied up in the courts right now. I wouldn't have brought him in.
But let's be fair.
To be a part of that.
Carver never mentioned any of these accusations.
He did not.
And I want to make sure people understand. Ryan Carver didn't say this in the press. This was done by this disgruntled deputy. And he has attached himself to Ryan's campaign, which I think that, and I hate to say that Ryan is out there doing this. If he is, that's very disappointing because he had great ideas that he's running on. And I think his campaign can stand alone without
True.
having to bag yours.
Yeah, that's more of what I'm saying.
Yeah. Agreed. And when I say attach, just the fact this ex-deputy showing up to meet and greets,
Yeah, I didn't know that.
talking to delegates, is like I said, it's unfortunate because it is kind of overshadowing probably what is a fairly positive message that my opponent has.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, Sheriff, thank you very much for your time.
We have you on Facebook, right? At Reelect Paul Wimmer.
Reelect Sheriff Paul Wimmer. And yeah, that's probably the best way. There's also an Instagram, but you'll have to ask a younger person than me to put that one up there. But they are linked, and so I also have not ventured into the TikTok arena yet either. I have a teenage daughter that thinks that I should go full TikTok.
Could you?
Hey, I tried to do it a couple weeks ago and I still don't understand it. So I'm with you.
Could you imagine the sheriff on there? All right, am I on?
There are the police departments that do have a TikTok.
I know they do, and they've also got a 20-year-old brand new girl in there.
Yeah,
I'm going to share your page real quick, just so people can see it. So it's on Facebook. Reelect Paul Wimmer. It's got a picture of you on top with
your lovely family. Please thank them for your reelection, because I know that your amazing wife is somewhere behind you, probably scratching her head, just like, what are we doing? We must be crazy. 3 terms, that's crazy, going for a 4th. But we are grateful for you, sir, and the transparency tonight has been extremely appreciated. It means a lot.
And I appreciate the opportunity to come on here and and actually clear the air on some of the misinformation that's been put out there. Because one thing I won't do is I won't go on to Facebook group pages, because that just brings out the trolls.
Sure.
And so I'm happy to have the conversation with those that want true understanding of the truth. What I don't find my time is very well spent trying to argue with someone that's already decided that just wants to cast stones, and so and that's what a lot of the groups are set up to do. So you typically won't see me much of a membership on that, and I'll get people that'll say, oh man, they're going after you on this page. I said, you know what, there's not much I can do about it. And I'll use my page to push my message, and that's what I do. And if people want to engage me on my page, come on over. We'll engage. But if you're a troll that just wants to name call and what have you, save it. I'd rather spend my time talking to people that it makes a difference to.
Well, that's what a professional would say.
Very good.
And I appreciate that. I appreciate you, and we appreciate you being on tonight more than you know. And we hope that you and your family enjoy your spring break and your Easter.
Happy Easter to you guys as well.
Yeah.
And, thanks again. And like I said, I could talk sheriff stuff with you guys for hours, and it's probably my fault that I don't make it on or come see you more often. But
we're just as bad, though. So somebody has to put an end to this show, and it's going to be me.
I want you to come out to the range with me.
We just qualified a couple weeks ago, and yeah, you're right. It never hurts to spend a little more time on the range, because who spends enough time on the range?
Nobody.
Something, it's something you love so much, but it kind of gets lost in the busyness of life, and then when you get back up there, you get reacquainted with what you love about it.
Yep, that's right.
True.
That's right. I'd like to pick up some tips from a professional.
Well, I don't ever claim to be the best, but I'm always learning new stuff. And we brought on red dots, and that was a little bit of a lift for me. I mean, I could go on and on, but we'll be here for another couple hours.
Those are a big learning curve. We'll have to have a gun show sometime. Well,
Yeah.
Sheriff Wimmer, thank you very much, everyone. That's Sheriff Wimmer.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Check him out on Facebook. Go there, shoot questions at him. If you do have questions about who you're going to vote for, I would suggest go right to the candidates themselves. Ask them the questions. If there's something you're concerned about that you want to see law enforcement do, go right there and say, hey, this is something I'm concerned about. Is this in your plans, or can you accommodate that? Can that be something in the back of your mind? Humana.
Yep.
Yeah.
His contact info is on there. It's all linked. You get out of here, Sheriff.
All right.
We've had a lot of your time, and then you and I are going to talk about the Hope for Life, right?
Yeah. I just got to mention the Hope for Life Foundation thing coming up, showed on the screen.
Hope for Life. I'll see you there if you go.
Yep.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Yep. And then we're walking to Wendover for suicide prevention at the end of the month. And so,
Oh my goodness.
Perfect. Yeah. Everyone, walking to Wendover for suicide preventions. It's a long walk.
It's a great fundraiser. So
Yes.
So anybody who's walking is able to raise money, and you can reach out to those people and Venmo them or do whatever, and they walk that whole way to Wendover. It's a great cause. And the sheriff has been doing that for years, and it's growing and growing and growing. It started out a small group, and now it's a number of people in our community walking to raise awareness. So get in touch with him if you want to sponsor someone, or if you want to walk yourself. It's Life's Worth Living.
Yep, the Life's Worth Living Walk to Wendover, and I'll be posting my fundraiser on my personal page, which you can probably Google me, search me in the Facebook, but I'll be posting my fundraiser there this week, and try to raise a little bit of money to go to suicide and prevention education.
Perfect.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you very much, Sheriff. You have a wonderful night. And and we just had another comment. Very good, interesting talk with Sheriff Wimmer. That came from William Mara. And happy Easter to you guys. And we'll cut you loose now, Sheriff. You have a good night.
You as well.
Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
Thank you. Okay. And then, so everyone who's the Hope for Life Foundation is this year, it's going to be Saturday, May 16th at the Deseret Peak Complex. You can just go on to Hope for Life Foundation on Facebook. You can reach out to Blair Hope. You can call him at 801-554-0527. It's $55 for a single person, $100 for a couple, $500 for a table of 8. There are sponsorships available. I'm just going to pull the sponsorships right up on the screen. There's multiple levels if you want to sponsor it. If anyone, Hope for Life is a foundation that aids veterans in kind of all around stuff. He helps them. He helps them reverting back into the world and not
life.
just it's kind of about aiding veterans in washing off some of the awful circumstances they've been through and allowing them to be a better father, husband, wife, citizen.
And it's
neighbor.
veterans helping veterans.
Yes. And Blair Hope is a veteran. But anyway, it's the Armed Forces Day fundraiser banquet. It's a very good banquet, good dinner. They'll have a raffle there.
Looks like they're going to have casino.
Yeah, there's a casino there. That's always a fun time. Go stand at the craps table, have no clue what's happening. You just stand there.
You don't know how to play craps?
I haven't a clue. No one has a
Best
clue.
odds in the house in
Yeah,
craps.
Craps is
I
not a
love
real
craps.
game. I think craps is just where you go stand
You
around.
can bet on
and
anything on craps.
Every once in a while, they just push chips at you. There's no rhyme or reason.
There's
We
a
know.
reason.
Sure. Anyways, so check it out. If you're interested, if you're a veteran, reach out to them. If you're interested in supporting veterans, reach out to them again. Saturday, May 16th, 2026. Give Blair a call, 801-554-0527. You can find Blair on Facebook. You can find
Blair
Hope for
Hope.
Life. Yes,
Hope for life.
Yep. Blair Hope for Life. All right. And that's that for that, everyone. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone for commenting. I want to, I don't know. It's nice when you see two candidates that neither of them are negative, or neither of them would be bad. It's nice to see that.
We appreciate you guys tuning
Yeah.
in tonight. And I know it was a long show, but we wanted to make sure that we got to the bottom of things and let the conversation go where it goes. But please reach out to these candidates.
Yeah.
And if you have a delegate whose job is to be reaching out to these candidates, reach out to your delegate. Make sure they've talked to both and make sure they're asking good questions about what exactly the job is, how the job is being done, et cetera, et cetera. We love you. We wish you a very safe and happy Easter with your family, and enjoy your spring break.
I
with
hope
your
everyone
kids.
gets to eat all the bunny that they want.
Goodbye, everybody.
Yes.